Hello, I'm taking on a challenge to beat every playable Nintendo-published video game. The next game is Baseball for the Game Boy. Well, here we are, the last of the 4 Game Boy launch titles in Japan. It's also the first of 3 sports games on the Game Boy that share a title with a game on the NES: baseball, tennis, and golf. Now, I often see these listed as ports of the NES games, but I'm not sure I entirely agree. They do share the same names, I guess, but they're all pretty different from their NES counterparts. For baseball in particular, the physics are entirely different from the NES game, and the teams are a lot more elaborate. Baseball for the NES featured 6 different teams, but as far as I could tell, the only difference between each was their uniform colors. In the Game Boy game, there's only 2 teams, the White Bears and the Red Eagles, but now every team member has a name and even their own stats. You can even switch between a few different pitchers as you play. The NES game had nothing like this. Another difference is that Mario and Luigi are officially in the game, which I guess sort of makes this the first unofficial Mario baseball game. Interestingly, even though the Western cover of the game shows Mario on it, the Japanese cover of the game doesn't show him at all. I double-checked the Japanese manual though, and Mario and Luigi are still there as players. On that note, there's an option to play with Japanese players, and if you play in the Japanese mode, you'll find that one of the players is named Yoshi. Whoa, is this Yoshi's secret first appearance? Well, Yoshi is a common name in Japan, so it's just a coincidence. But hey, if you want to imagine that this regular-looking dude is somehow Yoshi in disguise, then by all means imagine away. Alright, that's all the history I've got for this one, so with that, let's jump into my time with baseball. Similar to Yakuman, this game supported multiplayer through the Game Link cable, but for my goal, I just wanted to win a game against the CPU in the single-player mode. I mentioned this in the intro, but you could select between USA variants of the teams and Japanese ones. At first, I thought it only affected their names, but it turns out they each play differently too. According to the manual, the USA team throws the ball faster, but aren't as good at change-up pitches. I just chose the USA team for now, and I selected Mario himself as the starting pitcher. I chose to play as the White Bears, so the CPU played as the Red Eagles, meaning I was the team in white, and they were the team in red. Or gray, I guess. I was up to bat first, and that might just be one of the worst hits I've ever seen. How did it go straight up like that? All 3 of my hits ended up flying really high. My third one did go pretty far, but yeah, they just caught the ball 3 times in a row, and the top of the first inning was over already. I guess it's time to learn how to pitch. In this game, you can control the speed of the pitch with up and down, and you can use left and right to control where the ball goes. They eventually got a good hit here, and man, the fielding in this game is really slow. The guys move at a snail's pace, and even the way they throw the ball takes forever. Maybe it's like this to help the games feel more exciting by allowing for more bases to be run, but it definitely feels more sluggish than most baseball games I've played. Thankfully, I got them all out before they scored any runs. Gah, why do I keep hitting these stupid fly balls? Also, here I got messed up by the way they implemented bunting. If you tap the A button, you bunt, and if you hold the A button, you swing, and it took me a bit to get the hang of this. Yeah, this is not going well. In the second inning, I got 0 runs again, and the CPU got 3 runs, soundly taking the lead. Man, I just kept hitting fly balls. Look at how high this one is going. Wait, that's a home run. Haha, it only took me 4 innings, but I finally put myself on the board. Yeah, this wasn't nearly enough. In inning 5, they scored 4 more runs, and I just gave up and reset. During my next game, I failed to score anything in the first inning, and after they started crushing me, I just rage quit again. Alright, 3rd time's the charm, right? Nope, I got wrecked by them again. Man, this is brutal. Around this time, I learned from one of my chatters about the differences between the USA and Japanese teams, so I decided to try swapping to the Japanese ones. Maybe the slower pitches will stop me from hitting so many fly balls or something. Well, I don't know if it was the Japanese teams or if I was just starting to get better, but I finally started to get some runs. The balls were flying a lot lower now, and I started employing this strat where I would start stealing bases while they were winding up their pitches to give my guys a head start. I ended inning 1 with 4 runs. Finally, I'm getting somewhere. Geez though, how are they so good at hitting the balls right along the line every single time? Seriously, this was starting to get kind of frustrating. They got 2 runs this way, but thankfully I ended the inning still in the lead. Holy moly, this was a high-scoring game. In the 8th inning, they were up 13-11, and worst of all, they got a home run with 2 guys already on base. Yeah, it was over for me. I was full-on raging at this point. Now that I officially lost a game, I gotta see my team look out in shame as the crowd threw junk at me. Way to rub it in, game. Well, at least I scored some runs this time, but yeah, that was still kind of rough. I decided to go back to the USA mode again. I guess I was starting to get good enough at the game as I took an early lead. By the 5th inning, I was up 5-3. Finally, things were going my way. By the bottom of the 9th inning, I was up 14-8. That's a 6-run lead. There's no way I screw this up now, right? I even brought out Mario, my star pitcher. Okay, wait, maybe Mario's actually a terrible pitcher. They started getting run after run, and somehow they got to 13 runs with 0 outs. Now they're only 1 run away from catching up. I can't choke like this. Okay, finally, I started catching the ball and I got a couple of them out. I just need one more and it's over. Oh shoot, they got a guy on third. This is way too close. Yes, I caught a foul ball and I finally did it. My team cheered on and threw who I can only assume to be Mario up into the air. Well, there we go. That's my main goal done. But like Yakuman, I brought in Suji for a multiplayer match. For those of you that haven't heard yet, I live with Suji now, and we're going to be playing a bunch of multiplayer stuff together from here on out. My main goal will always be the single player content, but now I'll be able to include bonus sections like this for games in the future. For this game, I was once again the White Bears and Suji was the Red Eagles. It kind of took me a second to remember all of the controls. I got a run in the first inning, but Suji started off getting some great hits, and we ended the first inning tied 1-1. I tried to bait Suji a few times, but he wasn't having it. Oh, come on, that did not hit him. Suji's clearly moving into these on purpose. I've gotta say, the pitching is a lot more interesting against a real human. There's a lot of mind games, and that's essentially just lost when you're playing against the CPU. Well, shoot, Suji's second inning was a lot better than mine. He's now beating me 4-1. Phew, I brought it back. Now we're tied 4-4. There's a lot of awkward moments in this game, but when it's player versus player, it works a lot better since you're both having to struggle your way through it. In the 7th inning, I tricked Suji by silently having my guy advance forward after Suji caught the ball, all while I complained about him catching it. This worked like a charm. Then, soon after, I got a squeeze bunt in. Nice. Now I was up 6-4. Oh, this was another great moment. Suji thought he could bait me, but instead of throwing the ball back to first base, I just chased down his guy instead.
I'm coming for you.
No, you were supposed to do that. Did you turn around right after?
You tried to bait me.
Okay, it's the bottom of the 9th inning and I'm still up. Time to close it out. Okay, that's 1 out, now 2, just 1 more. Shoot, he got a run, now it's 6-5. This is actually pretty close. Suji had a guy on third, but after what I think was an accidental bunt, I was able to get him out before he scored another run. Phew, I won 6-5. With that, my time with baseball was complete. On to the review. Well, it's more retro baseball, and it's definitely not my favorite. The controls didn't feel quite as awkward as the NES game, but the fielding was still frustrating at times, and playing against the CPU just wasn't all that interesting. That being said, I did like that the game felt like it had just a bit more character than the NES title, with the teammates each having different names and stats, and being able to switch from a few different types of teams was nice too. The game was obviously at its best against a real player, but I don't know, I just kinda have a hard time getting into these old sports games. It's not terrible, but still kinda forgettable. I gave Baseball for the Game Boy a 5 out of 10. Well, there you have it, the 4 Japanese Game Boy launch titles ranked. Let's see, 1 8 out of 10 and 3 5 out of 10s. Yeah, I think it's clear which of these 4 is my favorite. Let's just hope the future of the Game Boy is more like Super Mario Land and less like the other 3. Anyway, with Baseball complete, I have now finished 4 out of the 116 Game Boy games in the challenge, meaning I am now 3.45% of the way through all of the Game Boy games. Thanks for watching the video. If you want to see more of these in the future, make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you won't miss out on the next one. Also leave a like if you enjoyed it, since it will help the channel grow and motivate me to continue this series. I hope I will see you in the next step of my quest to beat every Nintendo game.